All right. Hey, Paul, this is getting exciting.
Oh, yeah.
As we are on the cusp of week 1 in the NFL 2024 season. What you think?
Oh, my God. It is coming around, and I'm getting excited more and more every single day. And I was almost like biting at it, hoping that people were going to be playing this last weekend, but it just had to wait.
I know that we went between the season, and the start is just, it's awesome.
Right.
Anyways, I am Todd Bailey. This is my producer, Paul Bailey.
Hey, what's
and
up?
Welcome to the official Extreme Fantasy Football official podcast online. And as you see all above my head, all those buttons you can click. And
Absolutely.
Paul's going to do his duty right here and tell us how to do all that.
Yeah, make sure you like and subscribe as well as follow. And when you like and subscribe, you also get that notification when we are posting new episodes, at least on YouTube. So, yeah, make sure you do that. We definitely appreciate it.
That's awesome. And as always, we want to thank our sponsors, 123go.io and Tabby Entertainment. The website is extremeFFL.com. And today, Paul,
Yep.
we got a lot to cover. NFL week starts pretty soon. I have some AI projections.
Yep. All right.
AI projections here. And then we're going to chat about you and I and everybody else playing Extreme Exchange and Extreme Fantasy Football Leagues. And we're going to get into it in a few moments. So hang tight. So, Paul, I want to give you some props here because you have not been a strong fantasy football player in the past few years. It's been many years since you had LaDainian Tomlinson in your team.
Oh, yeah.
So what?
Been a little while.
It's been 10, 12 years since you got that point, and now I can just feel you got a little bit of a bug. You came in this morning or today with some notes, and you were commenting about your teams, and you're in a traditional league as well as an EFFL league and an exchange, and man, that's kind of exciting, Paul.
Yeah. I'll get right into that. So I've been doing fantasy football league again. I did a traditional league now for the first time, and I think it's 12 years at least, because I think it was 2012.
Okay.
I want to say last time I played. So yeah, it's certainly been a long time coming, but got back into it, and it's been exciting. I had an auto-drafted team because I missed the draft. So, working with what I got, but I did go through ahead of time and kind of vet through positionally where the players would be like drafted if an auto draft happened. So I'm glad I did that because now I recognize the names that I've got at least, which is better than not. But yeah, getting into that, it's been a lot of fun just checking out which teams are going to be up against which teams for different matchups. Which offenses against which sort of defenses. Of course, you have the quarterbacks for positional matchups that you're like, oh, which ones do I want to play here? Mm-hmm. And then getting all into EFFL and Extreme Exchange, that was a whole new world of thinking there where it's like, oh, wow, okay, it's really anybody I can choose from. And it's because of that, there's so much more excitement. And you're like, oh, well, do I want to front load my season? Do I want to worry about, running back one? Who's going to be the quarterback that I play this week?
Yeah.
And all those sorts of decisions became very exciting for me really quick. So I, quickly, like 2 hours passed on my computer while I was just like listening to different podcasts and.
It is an addiction, and people who like myself who've been playing for probably going almost on 40 years now. It is truly an addiction, and when you find a little nuance or a little change here or there in certain things, it's kind of cool little concept. But we will get into our specific teams and what we kind of come up with in a little bit. But let's talk about the NFL, Paul.
Yeah.
So week 1 is in 2 days. We're filming today on September 3rd, which happens to be what, Paul? My birthday.
Oh, yeah.
It's my birthday. It's my birthday. No,
I can't believe I don't have a thing for that. You know what?
You can get a birthday drop.
I got this at least.
Booyah. Booyah.
Booyah.
Booyah. All right. So, anyways, clap. You have the applause thing, right?
You do have the applause. That's a classic. Happy birthday, Dad. There you
enough
go.
of that. Thank you very much. Hey, enough of that. It's all about the NFL coming up in 2 days. We got the Baltimore Ravens are traveling to Kansas City for the first game, and it's always a really good event happening on a Thursday night game. So we got I'm thinking probably the 2 best teams in the AFC playing in week 1. So that's always going to be kind of fun. So we'll get into a little bit of what's going on there. But more or less, I want to talk about some players who have been holding out. And just recently, I think one guy is going to be signed today, but CeeDee Lamb,
Hmm.
Brandon Ayuk, and Trent Williams. Now, if you remember, a few weeks ago, we had the Madden 99 club,
Yeah.
and one of those players is Trent Williams. So I believe he's going to sign today. And because, yes, he's back in town in San Francisco and looking forward to being part of the team. So the question is I have to you, Paul, is I know you have CeeDee Lamb on your traditional team.
I do.
I
Yeah.
know you have that guy. So uh, how much do you think he's going to play? Do you think he's in full game shape, conditioning?
It's so for me, I'm kind of weighing in my head the likelihood of, how much of a chip on his shoulder does the hiring team have? What is the general manager thinking? Are they going to say, we want to make sure we get our money's worth, and we paid for you, and you were going to be a huge jerk about it, so get on the field and play. You know,
A huge jerk about it. All right, there you go.
yeah, I wanted to be a little PG about it, so yeah. They could just say, hey, we paid money for you, we want to get our money's worth, get on the field and make it. But they could also be like, look, it was a pain and we want to make it so that you recognize you can't just push us around like that.
Yeah.
And ultimately you might miss half a game, you might miss a quarter, at least you might just only be in it for a quarter. You don't know. So hopefully with CeeDee Lamb, because I'm leaning on him pretty hard here, hopefully he's going to be in it for the whole game, and we'll see what happens. But it's definitely an interesting situation. Something like Trent Williams, he has a lot of leverage, especially once he gets put on the Michigan or the Madden 99 club.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that's
Yep.
just a video game, but it does hold a lot of weight within the community, and people are going to be thinking about that. And I think that players are also going to want to get their game time. If it were up to them, I think they'd be on the field the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
So
right.
yeah,
Having, uh, as you, I'm going to say leverage, but there are words that can be used be differently. But having those players like a CeeDee Lamb and a Brandon Ayuk and a Trent Williams have leverage over their ownership and their teams, it kind of sucks in a way because if Trent Williams is not there, then McCaffrey is not going to be as valuable, and either is Brock Purdy, and then potentially either is Debo Samuel or George Kittle or Brandon Ayuk.
hmm
So a lot of things change there. It kind of trickles down. And likewise, if you go to the CeeDee Lamb, you go to the Dallas Cowboys, if Dak Prescott does not have CeeDee Lamb to throw to, who's he got? He got Brandon Cooks. He doesn't have a whole
right.
lot back there from a WR1, situation there. So
hmm
those kind of things, as your general manager, you want to have the team to win, obviously, and the fans want the players to play because they're there to watch those players, and
Yeah.
they expect if I'm going to pay $100 or more, probably more in a lot of cases, to watch a football game, they better win.
Yeah, if I'm going to be watching the Dolphins play, I want to see Tyreek Hill. you
Right.
know?
Right. So it's always kind of iffy there. So, anyways, but CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, and Trent Williams should all be signed and ready to go by week 1. The good thing is for the 49ers is their game is Monday night. So there's a couple more days extra, or at least a full day and a half from
Sure.
that. So there's more time there. Dallas does have a Sunday game, but anyways, so. And, of course, in Detroit, we have the big game Sunday night.
Oh yeah.
Now, I don't know if you watched any of the preseason games. Well, actually, the only game we had at home was the week 3 against the Steelers. And I was not there, but I heard from people who were there, and I saw it on TV.
hmm
As always, our fans showed up. People were commenting about how loud it was for a preseason game. And I'm older than almost everybody on this listening here, but there's been years ago where people would walk in with a brown paper bag with holes cut out. As I don't want to be seen here, but I'm watching the game anyways. And now we have sold out, super loud, and just for a preseason game, I can't imagine how it's going to be again on a Sunday night. So
Yeah. I mean, gave a city hope that had not had hope in a long time, and yeah, you get to see firsthand what that looks like. And apparently, it looks like sold out shows, sold out games, even in
Yeah.
the preseason.
Well,
And I'm sure that's going to carry through.
yeah, this town is so jonesing for the Lions to do well, continue to do well. They did awesome last year. They were 20 minutes of playing time from being in the Super Bowl
Wow.
last year.
Yeah. Yep.
And you could say this, you could say that, but they were a really young team, and they got there. So I'm hoping that they tasted a little bit of what needs to happen, and let's just hope that they have the drive to do it again. 'Cause I'm pretty confident what they have, and
Right. Yeah.
obviously health is a reason or issue. Every league, every team, excuse me, has it. So if the Lions can stay healthy, I don't see anybody that's gonna stop them until it gets to the very, very late rounds in the playoffs. So
Right.
that's pretty cool. So, have you experienced much with your own regarding AI?
Very, very little. Mainly ChatGPT.
Okay.
That's mainly my GPT, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
GPT.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's my almost entire experience, minus some Photoshop stuff that I've done.
Okay.
But that's just literally just for fun and being like, oh my goodness, look what AI can do.
Yeah. So, I've been messing around with AI for about 2 years now, and uh, I decided with my buddy Joe made a comment about doing some few things with AI, and so I programmed the scoring metrics for the EFFL into the Chat GPT. So I have projections for that, and actually in one of the leagues, and I won't get to it much now. I will maybe later on, but I'm in at this point 12 EFFL leagues at this point. But one of them I named the team Asinine Idiots.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
AI. I'm going to do a team strictly based on the results that AI gives me and who they recommend that I play based on the scoring that we have in our league. So let's see how that
Interesting.
goes. So
Wait, I just want to say, so you have how many teams? 12 different
I
teams
have,
in
I
different
have
leagues?
12 and potentially one more, and then I had the exchange. So I'm
Okay.
in 13 opportunities currently.
So if you take out the one for the AI league, then you're going to have 12 chances to beat your AI league.
Uh, yeah.
What do you think your ratio is going to look like on that?
Well, I hope pretty good. I mean, as wonderful as AI is, I don't. They take away the human element, which maybe in a lot of cases is worth taking out. But I think with my superior knowledge of my 58 years of being on this planet, right? This is all a little tongue in cheek.
Yeah, let's hope so. Yep.
Yeah, I can sit here and I can argue and make some points for certain things, but I'm sure that I have a heart pick. A lot of things are heart based, and I'm sure AI doesn't have that. So AI might just beat me, but I do hope I win more wins or points than the AI team does. I sure as hell hope so.
Yeah. I think you will too, to be
If
honest.
not,
Fair.
I'm just gonna make all AI next year, and I'll just see how that goes.
Yeah, might as well at that point.
I want you guys to know that Paul and I are not AI generated. We actually are physical human beings. So,
Yep.
as wonderful as AI is, it can't replace us right now.
Oh yeah, no, this is
Right now.
raw. You're gonna get it whatever way it comes through.
Yes.
That's
yes.
why every once in a while there's bleeps thrown into here.
Yep. Yep. But that's just true. But the reason why I brought it up, Paul, is I decided to go into AI and project just on the NFL standings and whatnot, project the playoffs for what the AFC and the NFC look like according to AI.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Talk about it here.
All right. So, in order of wins for the AFC, I have Kansas City 12-5, Houston 11-6, Baltimore 10-7, Cincinnati and Pittsburgh also 10-7. So three teams in that conference or division.
4 teams.
Well, 3 of them are 10-7.
Oh, right. Okay. Yep.
Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh are all 10-7. I got the Jets 10-7, and then they're projecting Miami at 9-8. So those are the 7 teams in the AFC. So let's quickly discuss those, Paul. First of all, what do you think? Chiefs 12, Houston 11 wins, Baltimore 10, Cincinnati 10, Pittsburgh 10, the Jets 10, and Miami at 9.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure after Miami's performance if they're going to beat this, but I think that I would put them higher up. I'd probably say that Pittsburgh and Cincinnati might not reach that 10.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's a little bit hopeful for Houston also, but I don't know. I could go for it. And then Kansas, I like. I like that.
Right. I'm kind of shocked that the Bills aren't in here. Buffalo is not on that list, and
Right.
so they're projecting that the Jets and Miami are going to beat Buffalo. Miami's going to be a wild card, and the Jets are going to be the AFC East. So I'm not sure about Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
They have potential, but anyways, that's just what I have here. And then there's nobody really out in LA. There's no LA Chargers, and I was kind of curious what you thought about Jim Harbaugh's heading out to LA. Um, Justin Herbert out there. Maybe they have some issues running back. They have a couple guys, Gus Edwards and
Mm-hmm.
J.K. Dobbins.
I mean, I do know that Harbaugh can actually figure out strengths in a team and put those strengths to good use. I can 100% say that with confidence. I don't know if that's going to be enough to bring the Chargers up into the playoffs. You know,
Okay.
I think that they could easily take the wild card spot if they have a good season, and they might be able to. Like, I could see them performing better than the Jets for sure if the Jets don't do super well, especially if Rodgers gets hurt or something, you know.
Right.
And then we got like I could see them doing better than the Steelers as well, or even Cincinnati, just depending on the way the dice roll. So, I don't know. I think it's a tough one there. I I guess I also see Baltimore doing a lot better than this, but this is just the AI projection. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it is. It's just AI is taking whatever they have out there and they're spitting it back out for us to look at. So, anyways,
mm-hmm.
we are on record at 9-3 at almost 3 p.m. that the AFC is going to be won by the Kansas City Chiefs as far as the record goes. They have the number one seed throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, I could go. Yep, I would agree with that.
Okay. All right, move on to the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
Number of wins in order. 49ers, 13. Philadelphia gets 12. Detroit gets 11. The Packers get 11. Cowboys get 10. The Rams are at 10 also. And the Buccaneers down in Tampa are at 9. Is there anybody there that you feel doesn't belong?
Honestly, I'm kind of liking the way this is looking. I think I might swap around Philadelphia and Detroit. That's a very picky swap, though.
Okay.
And I think the Rams might be a little bit bold of a guess there, or I think it might be bold of a statement. But I think that I kind of agree with it. But that might be a hard pick for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think showing here Detroit and Green Bay both at 11 wins, and I'm assuming the way they have it listed here in order that they're picking the Lions to win the division, and the Packers would be a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming with that, but I like to see the Lions be at the 12-win mark there. That would be kind of cool.
I was gonna say, in my dream world, I would have Detroit swap with Philly, and then take Dallas and swap them with Green Bay, just because I don't think Green Bay is. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think they're great, but hopefully they don't perform on the Detroit level. Yeah, I don't think that they will. You know.
Yeah. Questions. How about Seattle, Chicago, or Atlanta? Do any of those three? Like so in the NFC South, they're showing the Buccaneers winning at 9-8. So they're looking at that being Atlanta will be less than 9-8. They have a pretty good team now with Kirk Cousins down there and Bijan Robinson running, and
Mm-hmm.
they got Drake as a receiver and they got Kyle as a tight end and.
Right, that's a good point.
So I'm wondering if anybody out there has opinion on Atlanta versus the Buccaneers. I'm guessing that they had Atlanta must have been at 8-9, maybe 9-8, also tying the Buccaneers with a tiebreaker getting out of the way.
Sure.
But anyways, what's your thoughts on Seattle, Chicago, or Atlanta?
I definitely would like. I think that the Bears can totally do it. They could absolutely make their way into the playoffs. I could see them taking out the Rams, for example, like I was saying earlier.
Oh.
The Buccaneers, I think, could be dropped out as well, and I could totally go for man, I already forgot the team that you said previously.
Buccaneers, Tampa Bay, Atlanta.
Atlanta. Yep.
Atlanta, yeah.
And I could go for Atlanta. I could definitely see just their core pulling out some clutch wins and getting them into the playoffs, right? Like I don't doubt that for a moment.
Yeah, yeah. Again, everybody, every I'm going to call them pundit. Every pundit out there in extreme, not sorry, in just general public of fantasy football or even NFL predictors, they all have their opinions. They all have their thoughts. They all have analyzed as much as they can or whatever it may be, and they tell us what's going to happen. And I haven't heard somebody projected through Madden, the Madden game, projected all the way through, and on a local station here in Detroit, they actually went through and they kind of dictated what happened, and the Lions win the Super Bowl against the Chiefs 29-28.
Wow.
So, I
Tight
mean,
finish there.
I'm sure if we all simulate a Madden, we're all going to be different outcomes because it's all computer. But this one
Sure.
guy did it, and we won 29-28. What was really kind of cool, though, is we were down 14 points in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
And we came back, got a touchdown, held them, got another one, got a 2-point conversion, take the win, and our defense stops Mahomes, and we win the game. So if the world
That's
would
crazy.
end at 29-28 in my 58th year, I would be okay.
Right. You saw
I would
the
be
Lions
okay.
win
That
the
would be
Super Bowl.
awesome. So yeah, we're now talking about Madden simulations here, not just AI anymore. We're talking about Madden simulations. But anyways,
Yeah.
that would be one circumstance, and I guess the question that I have for all of us out there, at least in the Ann Arbor, Detroit area, if the Lions came out and if the AI is correct at being 11-6 and let's just say go 12-5, whatever it is, and win their division, are you happy?
Am I happy if
The Lions go 11-6, 12-5, and
Yeah.
win our division, but they're not number one seed, so they have to go on the road against, according to what AI is saying here, against the 49ers again, like they did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be happy?
I will say I wouldn't be upset, and I think that partially this is because AI is basing their information off of the likely odds of things. And so I would guess that based off of the projections that these are similar projections that would have for, any expert who is breaking down this sort of information. And so I think that this is very much the likely case scenario. So if it plays out like this, then this does not upset me, I should say. Like as a baseline, that's the way I feel there. But I will say that I think that there are certain things that I would be disappointed not to have seen.
Right.
So I think that it's not so that I'll be like, oh, what, it rolled out in the likely way that you'd expect it to. It's more so that it's like, dang, I was really hoping to see some breakout here or here.
Right. I really want the Lions to be number one seed. I know we all can say that, right? Because you get home field advantage. We had mentioned a few minutes ago about how wonderful our fans are.
Mm-hmm.
Our fans would just go ecstatic if we have the NFL or NFC championship game in house at Ford Field. That would just be like, mind blowing. So that would be really kind of cool. The Niners are a very well deserving team to be a number one seed, but and going out there to win, we saw that last year. We were there, and then 20 minutes later, we weren't there. So that was heartbreaking and heart wrenching. But they got there, they tasted it, and I really hope that they can get there again and do it. Dan Campbell have told his players to stop talking about Super Bowl, just so you know.
Yeah, sure, yeah, absolutely. Something that I want to ask you actually, and this is going to be kind of diverting off of everything. Do you think that the pressure or the high intensity atmosphere of the Super Bowl game, or even just the playoff games in general, do you think that you should do what the Lions did, where you kind of work your way, you break into the playoffs, you have a good performance, You don't quite make it all the way. You get another bite at it the next year. You work your way up. That narrative building story kind of thing where you work your way for that Super Bowl reign. Do you think that is the more likely road to success? Or do you
Yeah,
think?
I do. I don't know how often. I don't have the stats in front of me. I don't know how often a team gets to the Super Bowl, so especially with the age of players that we had last year, very very young players,
Mm-hmm.
uh, get there and actually um, make it all the way. I
Right,
guess.
without playoff experience from the
Yeah,
previous year. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there was a lot of hype, a lot of I can say stress. I mean, it was a fun time to be a Lions fan. That's for dang sure. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, crap happens. And if I go back to Michigan 2 years ago, they went down to Georgia and down to Miami and played Georgia in the Orange Bowl with a very young team. They tasted it. They got to the playoffs, tasted it, lost, got their butt kicked by Georgia. The next year, get to the playoffs, they lose a close barn burner against TCU, and then the third year, those players, the main core were still there. They go out and 15-0 and win it all.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that model is the more likely.
Right.
So the Lions were. I mean, they didn't just get to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They got to the playoffs and they won 2 games. So they're
Right.
already, they're at that cusp. So I expect this season to be in the Super Bowl. And for me, unfortunately, I want them I don't I don't see them going into California and beating the 49ers on the road if that's how it ends up being again. If they have it here,
Yeah.
different story. But going on the road in I don't know, that's just tough to me. That's tough. That's a tough roll to hold.
Sure. Yeah. I can imagine eventually their streak has got to end if they were betting against the odds here. And I think that would be pretty tough
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
surpass those limits or whatever. But I think they could do it absolutely. And just to kind of reiterate this whole wave of energy that like Detroit would have behind them, like it would be very contagious for the fans. But I think it would also be very empowering for the players to be like, all right, this is going to be the time we're going to make this happen.
Yeah.
I think that they would be very, very motivated and hungry for those wins. So, granted, all players are at this point at the league or at that point of the league. So, you're competing against another team that also wants to win the Super Bowl, right?
Right. And just so you know, Paul, you would be the old guy on that team.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
You're 28, right?
28. Yeah.
So I think that 25 is the average age of the Detroit Lion guy now.
Wow. Yeah.
So the starters. So, anyways, you're the old guy on that team. How's it feel?
Yeah, I guess, the experience is nice. I'm sure I could get out there. We could give a lot of people a lot of helpful words of advice. I feel like I got to start doing my part in the world.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
Get out there and be a linebacker again, like you were, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get some hits out. It's been a second.
Let's see how all that goes.
Yeah.
So. All right. Hey, can you play the wonderful soundbite we have for the EFFL and let's switch gears and go from the NFL to the EFFL.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, Paul. So you got your first taste in a long time of being in a fantasy football league, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear so far. You mentioned a little bit before we got on air, what your mindset is and was when you were getting into that draft, and when you went from a traditional league and you got your players there, and maybe who you got. I know you did an auto pick, but you actually did do some pre-draft work there.
Mm-hmm.
But then you switched gears and you went into the EFFL, and you commented earlier about how different that is. So tell us that. And then going the step further, going to the exchange. So there's 3 different levels of fantasy football here. What you got for us?
Yeah, so I kind of talked about it earlier with me joining the conventional standard leagues, and that's on ESPN.com, and it's free. Really cool little group of friends that I got are actually from the WTKA station over in Ann Arbor.
Shout
out over to WTKA.
Yeah.
It's all the producers and stuff that are working on it, and so it's a very, very no stakes league and just kind of having fun. So for me, I just kind of got into that. Like I said, I did a little pre-draft work not too much. Missed the draft itself because I was busy, and then looked at my team afterwards and was like, all right, okay, so there's something to work with, something not to work with, and I kind of went down that rabbit hole of let's mess around with the team, let's look at the other people's teams, let's look at the matchups throughout the different weeks that we've got coming up here, and do on that whole sort of song and dance.
Yep.
And that was cool. I actually liked it a lot, and it was very exciting to get back into the fantasy standard league excitement that people are all down for. And it was pretty cool. I could see pretty quickly, though, that it just kind of died off at that. Like, it was very much, this is what I'm going to do for this week. I know I'm going to try to make these players, if I can get them for good trades, I'm going to offer them up for good trades, watch the waiver wire here and there. And that's kind of the most of my excitement here. And I kind of map out what effort I want to be putting into fantasy football before the league even starts in my head, because I can see the potential that my team might have in XYZ places if I get to make XYZ moves. So it's kind of limiting, though, in that way, because I was able to quickly see that, and I don't even play fantasy football, So then when I went to EFFL and started looking at my EFFL teams, I noticed, because I have two teams, one with some friends and then one on the sponsored league for Tabby, and on both of them, I had picked players from my previous teams, and I made them both the same, because a little while ago, like a week ago, I picked some players. I was like, these are players that I like. A lot of people I've been hearing about, and as I've been kind of Extreme Exchange minded, I'd chosen the players that I had paid attention to. I went back through it again recently, and all of a sudden, especially after I got my players from ESPN.com, and after I kind of did that whole thing, I re-looked at everything, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much more information than I have now. There's so many more players that I want to be careful for. There are so many players that I want to use and not use the players that I currently have. So for example, I had Travis Etienne as my running back one from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And don't get me wrong, he's a good running back. I think that he could be a solid choice, but I think he's more of running back 2 material for a week 1 kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I put Saquon Barkley in there because I want to be able to save Christian McCaffrey. I want to be able to save these like high stakes players for later on, based off of what I think will be their easiest matchups that they're going to excel the best in.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's going to be the best way of doing this, but I think that that's the way that to me seems like a good place to start. And so yeah, I started immediately thinking about these sorts of choices that I can make week to week, and all of a sudden I was like, this is really exciting to think about it. Start writing it down. So I had like a journal that I'm keeping track of which players I'm using in which leagues and where, so that I can kind of easily map out what I'm going to be doing for the future moving forward. I don't know. It was really cool, and so that was just getting into the EFFL, and then all of a sudden, just to keep this string going a little bit longer,
Yeah.
was the Extreme Exchange, and I looked into that, and then all of a sudden I have players that I have been hearing so much about constantly. Like, I listen to the Fantasy Footballers a lot. I listen to a lot of other podcasts that I just can't think of the names for them, but all the different fantasy football podcasts. All the time, and including now the Pat McAfee show. I listen to that a little bit here and there.
He's a wild guy.
He is. He has a lot of fun. It's not always on topic, but you know what? It's a lot of fun. So I've been listening to him also here and there. But a lot of times you hear about players that are like potential breakout players, potential people who are going to really show out from their position. But the way that they would only come to you in a draft, or the best way to say this is that they're only ideal if they come to you in your draft position in the right times,
Right.
Where you're like, oh, I'm the 3rd round draft and I'm in the beginning of the 3rd round, and this is my perfect time to pick up this player at a good value, know?
Right.
And then that player for that spot on your team is going to net you more than other potential players. And so like that whole thing is really useful if that situation happens upon you, right?
Okay.
Where in Extreme Exchange, you get to choose those players if you think it's a good situation for them right off the bat. So you can look at Rico Dowdle and be like, everyone talks about Rico Dowdle being a possible breakout. And I know in the Extreme Exchange he's only $48, and so I picked him up because I know that at that price he's going to be a low investment essentially with a good return. And so all of a sudden, these players, which I never would have wanted Rico Dowdle in my Extreme Exchange League, or EFFL League, or Rico Dowdle in my
ESPN League, either one.
ESPN League,
Right.
yeah, unless he's going to be like benched until a random week where I throw him out because I don't have another option.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, this player who I never would have cared about, I'm playing, and I legitimately think he's going to have potentially great value throughout the season. You know, and there's other players too, like Rashee Rice, who I know has a lot of controversy going on, but he could also potentially have a lot of growth this year. And he's at a $90 value, and so if he performs better than the average bear, then he can get you a few bucks here and there.
Right.
And so even though Rashee Rice you wouldn't necessarily want for your ESPN league unless he was your wide receiver 3 or something like that, in this league you can pick him up, have him for a little bit, sell him at a good time, and not have it be so reliant on when it happens. You can kind of choose when you want to invest in it and when you want to buy into these sorts of narratives for players, right?
Yeah.
It was really cool just doing this, and I know that we are on the show right now, and I'm working with the team of EFFL all the time, but it is and I know I'm part of the team for EFFL, but it's really exciting now that the season is up and running, and now that we can pick the players, and now that I can kind of apply some of my fantasy knowledge and get into it. So yeah, I really recommend anybody who has not taken the time to delve into it a little bit, like jump in.
I'm getting teary-eyed.
All right, okay.
Wow. Man, Paul, I haven't heard you be that excited about fantasy football ever. And that was fantastic. And I think you're right on point with that. That's just so cool. And you can just kind of get a little bit of a feel for, now take that times 40 is about how many years I've been doing it. But that little bit addiction, right? You find something, a little nugget, and it makes football in a lot of cases, better to watch for a lot of us at least. But yeah, I think what you just did there was fantastic. So I applaud you. Go ahead. If you want to get the little applaud thing, you can get the little applause thing. There you go.
Yeah, we'll do this for myself. Get a little pat on the back here.
Good job. That was good.
As a last thing, when it comes, like you had mentioned right there with watching the games and enjoying it like this, I am more excited to watch the games for EFFL. Like EFFL gets me more excited to see the general breakdown of how each week has gone.
Right.
Right. Where on ESPN, I literally only want to know how good Dak Prescott did this week.
Yeah.
It's CD Lamb, and I want to know if I got my 38 points out of those two.
So just so that the listeners know out there, Paul has Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, and Tua Tagovailoa as his quarterbacks. And they're all like a 1 point different in projections, so within a 1 point of each other. And this is a part of that's kind of cool from being traditional because you have your players on the bench and you can decide who you want to play and who you don't want to play. And he's playing the normal standard ESPN PPR league, so nothing too fancy with all that, not super flex and whatever. He has, this was kind of cool because you got Aaron Rodgers on the road at 49ers, you got Dak Prescott on the road in Cleveland, and you got Tua playing home against Jacksonville. Tua's 1 point projection less, but he's playing home. So that's kind of neat. We had the discussions regarding that because you had these players on your team. But now when we migrate to the EFFL, you're not stuck with Aaron, Dak, or Tua.
Right.
You actually can look at all 32 quarterbacks. At least first week you can. And decide which one of those has the best matchup. So it's kind of a neat little concept here that's working very well, and we're very excited. And I want to give you some pretty up-to-date news, everybody, about the number of people that we've had in this league.
Oh, yeah.
We got this year.
This is a good one. We're just going to give a little before this even starts.
It's pretty exciting. We're very exciting. So just so you know, this is our first year of getting big. We've been playing
trying
pretty
to really
much,
open this up to anybody. Yeah.
We've been keeping it pretty close to the vest for the past few years, and now we decided to go ahead and go big. So these numbers may not sound like a lot to you, but it's definitely a lot to us. 114 people as of this morning have registered to be in the EFFL leagues and in any one of the possible leagues potential. 114 people.
Love it.
We have 14 private leagues, which I think is really, really cool. The private leagues can be as small as 2 and as many as unlimited. So we have 14 private leagues that have been created, which I think is super exciting because this is a brand new thing for us.
I know we had tempered our excitement and we were like, all right, we might just get the 3 private leagues that we know that us and our friends will link. And
Right.
We'll see,
Right. So that's a kind of cool thing. We have 77 people, and I'm probably even missing a few more because they literally are coming in almost on the minute now. People that have already been registered and have a team in one of the leagues. So we're at 77 people in our leagues.
Nice.
And then currently we're at 13 people in our Extreme Exchange. And I do know, actually, we're at 14. I do know for sure someone else joined in. So I know we're at 14 people right now in our
Nice.
exchange. So that's very exciting. So we're very pumped about that. We didn't know what to expect. Our leagues last year, we had 65 teams total. And of that, we probably had, I think, 30 people. Most people had multiple teams, but
Okay.
now we're looking at already we're getting past that, so it's looking good. So
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty excited. So thank you, everybody out there. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. We appreciate it, everybody.
Booyah. Booyah. So I do want to discuss one thing, Paul. RB1 and WR1, and we had a discussion before we got on air here regarding this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a little bit of a different concept. Now, new to the EFFL this year is the RB1, WR1. And any running back or receiver that you start in those positions get a 15% bonus for being the RB1 or WR1 versus what they would have got before. So, the philosophy behind this is, or I guess the question behind this is, like for me, I'm starting Derrick Henry this week as my RB1. Okay, we all know he's a top tier running back.
Oh yeah.
So, that's where I got him. I do think that they're going to rely on him because he's new to the team in Baltimore. I have a feeling they're going to, feed him a little bit, get him excited about being on this team.
He's
So
gonna
I'm
be pretty
going with that.
important for this game too, I'd imagine.
Yeah. But then I'm going with James Cook, a running back for Buffalo, as my RB2. The reason why I'm going to James Cook, and that might still change that because I'm trying to find a second tier running back.
Okay.
I don't want to have a McCaffrey as running back too, because then I burned him for this first half of the season, which is
Yeah.
a 9-week season. So I'm thinking my philosophy is, and again, I'm only adequate at best in this. My philosophy is keeping the 9 tier 1 running backs for the RB1, and then going to the second tier running backs for the RB2. Now, if you do have a McCaffrey and Derrick Henry, for instance, playing this week, maybe you're going to win more wins than I will win. So that might give you a little bit of a leg up, again, barring any injuries. But now you don't have McCaffrey to use later on. So it's a kind of cool concept, and the same thing for receivers. So what's your thought on the RB1 now that you're into this fantasy football world now? What's your thought on the RB1, WR1?
So naturally, the first thing that came to my head, which I had mentioned earlier, was my general strategy of I'm going to try to save some of the good players until their matchups are best for them, and then we're going to try to put them down then and see how many points they can get me on whatever weeks they happen to get me the points. But it's very interesting now because when you mentioned that to me earlier, before the show, I was thinking immediately like, ooh, one of the things that I've learned as a competitor growing up more and more is that you want to make those aggressive choices. Being aggressive is very, very helpful. And oftentimes when you get to the tops of any league, you're going to find that those people are naturally very aggressive, but they also know how to make the safe choices when those opportunities need to happen, right? So they can get all of their points extremely fast, and then all of a sudden when they need to guarantee that they keep their points or whatever, that nothing drops too low or whatever, that they're not losing these big games, they can make the necessary changes that they need to when those happen. And so something that I would legitimately tell somebody, which I can't say is going to, I can't guarantee anything, but I would legitimately think right now and say with confidence that if you double down on your big receivers or you double down on your big value players, these first 6 weeks, for example, and you get majority wins in each of these weeks, that it's going to get you more results. And at that point, you're going to have maybe some harder choices that you're going to have to make, right? because you only have 3
Mhm.
weeks left. You've kind of exhausted a lot of your players, so you're going to have some harder choices that you're going to have to make to try to net you some points to continue the value of what you have. But even if you don't keep getting first or second or third in those weeks, you'd already gotten 6 weeks in a row of likely getting
Sure.
first, second, or third. And so that means that you've gotten so much value out of those aggressive picks that it takes a lot of the pressure off at the end when other people are like, hey, we have to suddenly make up all these points. We have to compete with this. What choices are we going to make that's going to give us this? They have hard choices. You made your hard choices early by being aggressive. I would go as far as saying that this is probably a road to success plan,
Okay. Hey,
but it could be wrong.
yeah.
It could be wrong.
Well, again, it's kind of like you between picking Dak, Aaron, or Tua, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could argue for any one of the 3 points,
Oh
and
yeah,
eventually with the hindsight 2020, right?
sure, right.
So, but your philosophy was probably point on. At this point, I'm choosing to go. And in fact, I'll just tell you, I have James Cook, and then my receivers, I have Justin Jefferson as my WR1. And I'm not sure Mike Evans qualifies for being tier two. He's probably even borderline tier one.
Mm-hmm.
But I am having him currently as my WR2 this season this year. So I'm burning Henry and Jefferson as my studs, as my one players. And just
Right.
quickly going through my other teams, I have the Lions offense. I'm
Ooh, okay.
banking on the Lions offense to come out on fire Sunday night. All the hype, the fans will be there. They're playing against the Rams and Matt Stafford. We beat them already last year in the playoffs, so I think we're going to be hot again. I think the NFL has us at 27 and a half points, I believe. So 21 points is the break even point as far as part of the scoring we have here. So they're above that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm picking the Lions for offense. I have the Cincinnati Bengals defense, which is strange, but they're playing New England. And I have zero faith in New England's offense. New England is playing Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, not Drake May, which, okay, I'm fine either way. But Jacoby Brissett's been bouncing around this league for literally, I think, 13, 14 years. And we know what he is. We know what he brings to a table. Great guy as far as the backup goes. Running back, Ramondre Stevenson, Jalen Polk as a receiver. I just don't see that being scary, so I'm picking the Bengals for defense. I am riding the Jared Goff wave for my quarterback. And then I mentioned Derrick
Nice.
Henry and James Cook as running backs and Jefferson and Evans as my receivers. I do think Sam Laporta for my tight end for the Lions. See, I'm going big Lions here, offense and quarterback and tight end. Going with Laporta, and then I'm going with Harrison Butker, the kicker, for the 49ers. So that is and I'm going to have the same lineup, I think, for all of my 12 or 13, however many I have, EFFL teams. There's just no
Right.
way I'm going to be able to make everything work out for 13 different lineups.
Yeah, no, it'd be real hard to do that. Even with two, I was originally thinking I would do it the same both ways, and then now I'm thinking that I'm gonna kind of have one as my what I would call like a phone it in league. I'm gonna make my choices in there early on. Gonna kind of convert those choices to both leagues, and then as we go through any kind of impulses that I get throughout the week, I'm gonna probably put into the more important team, and the other one that's more casual with some friends. We'll let it roll and see how those come out.
All right. And I said that I would challenge anybody or I would accept a private league invitation for anybody who wants to play me one on one. So again, that's just kind of and I'm not that good. I've only been in the playoffs one time in the previous 5 years. So I'm not all that. I just enjoy playing people. I think the private leagues is a great concept, and we have 14 leagues already created, so it's kind of neat.
Hmm.
Let's move on to the exchange. So this is our brand new baby. This is our infant. This is what we have. We tried for 8 weeks 2 years ago to have as a sample, and we got rave reviews from it from a lot of different people. I even have my stepfather, who is 80 years old, joining it this year, so I'm looking forward to his input. So the exchange, if you don't already know, shame on you, but it's okay. We'll tell you about it. $50 is all it costs to join the exchange, and you get $1,000 of portfolio money, and you can buy and sell players as you want, in essence.
Hmm.
So you could buy and sell 5, 10 times a week if you want. It's up to you. There's zero charge at this point for a transaction.
Absolutely.
And this is when you get put on your general manager's hat. You get to, look at see the trend of a certain player and whatnot. And we've discussed some players here to nauseum on this podcast. One of them named Aaron Rodgers, who we all know only cost $20.
Oh
So
yeah.
when I'm not saying if, but I'm saying when you get into the Extreme Exchange,
Hmm.
buy Aaron Rodgers. He
Right.
will make you money.
This is the number one. Like, I would go as far as saying at the end of the year, we can see specifically based on value of somebody's portfolio if they bought Aaron Rodgers. We're gonna see like an $80 difference of, oh yeah, this person bought Aaron Rodgers, I bet.
Right, because we have it set up that the average starting player by position in the 32 teams has a $100 value.
Right.
So if you believe Aaron Rodgers is an average quarterback and will have an average season, he will net you $80 roughly
Right.
or more at this point.
And if you think that he's going to be a top, what did they say in the draft positions, ADP? I think they had him in top 20. If you think he's a top 20 quarterback,
Oh, well, he's top 20. The ADP is overall draft. It's not just quarterbacks.
okay, right.
I think it's in there as a top 10 quarterback.
Oh, I'm sure, right. Yeah.
So he's probably even in the 115, 120 range. So
Right.
again, there's $80 to $100 of value probably in what Aaron Rodgers would do. Now, that we'll see how this all plays out.
Right.
So I have it on the screen here. I'm just going to kind of go through quickly some of the players who I have, but there is not a limit of players that you can buy. You
Mhm.
can go as few as one. You can go as many as you can fit into. I guess 50 would be the most you can buy with $1,000, $20 a piece. But you can go anywhere between 1 and 50, and there are no restrictions as far as having a certain number of people in a certain position. So quickly, I purchased 16 players. I have 4 quarterbacks. I won't go into all the details. It's kind of boring, and we're getting kind of late towards the end of our time, anyways.
Sure.
2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 tight end. I got 6 offensive teams, and I have 1 defensive team, and I have $138 left
Wow.
to spend. So I spent my $860 and change on those players. So I'm looking
I
forward
got
to
$10. I got $10 left. I don't know how you didn't spend it all. I mean,
Well,
I might be moving some money around here still,
I,
but
I think I have my eyes on a few people, but yeah, and you could buy and sell. You could as you want. So it's kind of
so give me 3 picks on your list here that you think are the ones that you're the most excited about.
well, okay, not name Aaron Rodgers.
Not name Aaron Rodgers.
Okay,
Yeah.
I am jumping on the Sam Darnold train because he is a starting quarterback now from Minnesota, and if you got JJ to throw the ball to out there, that's great. So he's only at $20, and just so everybody knows, the lowest in-season value that anybody can be is 10. So you're putting $20 out there for a starting quarterback with a arguably the best receiver in the league for $20. So I think Sam Darnold
Right.
is a
He
no-brainer.
does not have to do much. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also buying heavily into the Washington Commanders offense. They're only at $40.28. And I
You
like
think that they're going to be coming up here?
I do. They got they call him Scary Terry McLaurin. They have that. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be I think the best quarterback this season from the rookies. So I think it's going to be good. They got Brian Robinson also running back. So I'm confident that the Commanders will be valued higher than $40.28 going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one that I think is really good, and I guess I won't get into another quarterback, but I'm heavily buying Zamir White for the running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. Excuse me. He's $38.61.
Yeah.
He didn't play a lot last year, so this is stats, and the prices are all based on stats of last year. He didn't play a
Sure.
whole lot because of
Right.
Josh Jacobs. So $38 for Zamir White to me is a steal.
Yeah, you know what? That's interesting. So Zamir was also on my list of the 3 people that I would probably put up here as well, because at the value of $38, you know he's going to be starting. I'm sure that's going to go up real quick, and I know that the Raiders aren't the most exciting team to support like this, but at this price range, I definitely buy into it.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I know that I jumped on the Caleb Williams train. And I want to see, because I also think Jaden Daniels is a very good, a safe choice, a good solid pick for a great rookie. But I think Caleb Williams is going to take it. I know there's been so much hype for him, but I think that he could potentially handle this pressure pretty well. And I would like to see it happen. So we'll see. I think that Caleb Williams, granted he is $125, and so if you're coming down to the full value that you can get out of it, like Zamir White could easily get to an $80 price tag by the end, and that's going to net you $42 as opposed to the Caleb Williams, which might be, if he performs really well, we were talking earlier, he might get himself up to like the 150 range or something, which is a good $25 net back, but it's not as much as some of these other picks. So it's important to be keeping an eye out. But I will say, it's a heart pick. I'm down for Caleb Williams for right now. I think that he's got it cooking.
Yeah.
And then the other one to go with was oh my goodness, I lost him already. Oh yeah, you know what? It was the Cardinals offense.
Oh yeah.
I'm hopeful here that they're going to be able to kind of turn it up after last year. I think that they're definitely on an upswing, and I want to see it happen.
I had them too, also at $41.02. So
yeah, right.
You add Marvin Harrison to a team like that, and they're going to do well. So that's nice. So, but again, there's no requirements. I did buy one player of every position, but you don't have to. Not requirements. So that is kind of cool.
Yep.
And you can enter the exchange at any point this season. So you don't need to buy somebody now. You can buy somebody in week 8 if you want to, and get into the league if you want to. So it's all about that. And at the end of 18 weeks, whoever has the highest portfolio, which is cash on hand, as well as the player's assets, wins. So that's how that goes. So, Paul, I'm going to ask you to play our EFFL music to get us out of here.
All right.
So it is getting time for football. We're 2 days away, so 48 hours roughly before our first game. And I want to thank our sponsors, as always, 123go.io and Tabby Entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
On next week's show, we're going to have the results from week 1, maybe NFL stuff, but we're going to focus a lot on the EFFL highlights, players, teams that did really well, our own teams who did really well, and we're going to get into the exchange, some of the good and the bad, and some of the bigger movers, and who succeeded this week and who didn't. So all
Absolutely.
that. All right, Paul?
Also want to say we apologize for kind of taking a little hiatus. We have been very busy with the football season, so the podcasts have not been posting to the audio platforms yet. We will be getting them out there, though, hopefully this week or next week at the very latest. So
yes,
we'll be getting it out there, and we appreciate everybody listening. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. If you've not built a team yet, make sure you get a team built up and use this promo code podcast2024. That's right up there above me.
Above your head.
It's going to be important.
Yep. Awesome. And as I always say, Paul, when life gives you a chance, make it happen. Peace.